wanted to ask you a few more questions.
Go for it. More than happy.
Yeah.
More than happy. I love answering questions. People come into either like my chat or I see people asking comments and stuff, and they always apologize for asking questions. I think questions are fantastic, and you should ask them.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. Um, they're kind of about skulls. So what do you think is the strongest skull in the game? And what do you think is the weakest skull in the game?
Oh, the weakest skull in the game. I'll start with that one because it's probably an easier one to answer. I
Yeah.
think the weakest in terms of just like being overall bad, it's warrior maybe. It's between warrior and ent. I genuinely think
Okay,
both of
yeah.
those are the absolute bottom of the barrel. Probably, I feel worse for warrior because he already starts as a rare, and you think that he should be stronger as a default, but he has issues. I think,
Yeah.
it's probably warrior. I'd go for maybe
Okay.
warrior.
All right. And what do you
And
think is the strongest?
strongest.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really hard. There's so many strong skulls.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think alchemist right now is in a very broken position where
Really? Huh.
specifically if you get alchemist, put lots of magic on him, and he has the fire flask. His fire potion flask thingy move does maybe 10 times more damage than all the other ones that he has.
Whoa.
He actually is like the speedrun strategy at the moment where people want to get an alchemist maybe at the start of a run because you can re-roll and reset your runs at the beginning, and because he's a rare you can find him at the start of the run, and so they want to take him and either re-roll his abilities. If he doesn't start with the fire one, find that NPC and re-roll an ability. But you can quite literally throw those potions at a boss and just unload 3 fire potions, and it will almost always kill the boss.
Wow.
If you've built him with a lot of magic. It does
That's crazy.
insane damage.
Yeah, that seems balanced. Fair and balanced.
I mean, other ones that stand out are ones like Frost is really good. Obviously, Reaper, Arclich, Dark Paladin, Rider, as we saw, can do great things. He's just hard to use.
Yeah. Hard to control. Yeah, Juan David was mentioning that Rider killed me and he was waiting for me to switch to champion. That's fair. That's a fair
that is
fair
that
suggestion
is fair
for that fight.
That is
when you're jumping from those platforms, it might be a good idea to have a slow and steady sort of character for a while. But
it's part of why I was hoping, crossing my fingers, you'd either find Sylphid Wings or even just Priest Staff. There's a lot of downtime in that fight between her attacks where you can kind of sit there and either regenerate some health or the Sylphid Wings to maneuver around the stage a little bit quicker and jump over some attacks.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of attacks that are really tough to avoid, but yeah.
Oh, she's awful. It kind of comes down to a tie. Some people have a hard time figuring out, is Joan the hardest fight or is the hero the hardest fight? Because the hero has a lot of like he has a lot of stuff that just seems unfair, right? The hero does something and it's like, how could I possibly have known that or avoided that? Please.
There's no warning; it just appears. And
but at the same time, the room is fair. Like you can move all around. There's no pitfalls. There's no extra enemies being summoned. It's a one-on-one fight. Whereas with Joan, she's gonna summon extra NPCs. She's got that whole first phase where she's got NPCs hitting you and the beam across the screen. It's more hectic, you know.
Yeah, and I think with Joan, it's like. And I guess it's true of all the bosses, but knowing when you can unload your damage and when you need to stay to the side and which just takes experience, right? Like you just have to either watch a bunch of fights or
Which with the hero fight, I feel it's the opposite, where the devs are all like, "Hey, let's just make the hero almost never stop swinging."
Yeah, right. Which I found that if you can stay in the air a little bit more, that can help against the hero fight. At least that was when I beat the hero, it was with the Archlich, and I had the one where all the big chains come across the screen and and I think I might have had the infinite bone as well, so I could spam that. There was a couple times where I did it 3 times in a row and it did a lot of damage. It's very nice.
It does a lot of damage. You've actually touched on it. That's my favorite skull in the game.
Yeah, I like it too. The aesthetic of it is so good as well. It's so fun.
It's so cool. Like that, like it's always between like people say, oh, Reaper must be your favorite one because he's like most people's favorites. He's so stylish and cool, and I agree. But the Lich is like he's got the chains. He's got like that cool the way that he walks around the screen. He looks like he's too important to be there. It's like out of my way, out of my way.
Well, he's Kel'Thuzad, right? Like, I mean,
yes,
you basically get to play as Kel'Thuzad, which is awesome. G-Meek, how's it going? Good morning to you, or I guess evening. You probably had a nighttime shift, but and then Barrister is wondering what are tips for like brand newbies who struggle to get out of the forest. What would you say to someone who is struggling in even just the first parts of the game, like getting past the Yggdrasil or just kind of understanding enemy attacks, that kind of thing?
That's okay. So the very first thing that I tell most people who are coming into Skul, maybe from other games, in the beginning when I started, there was a lot of people coming from like Dead Cells over to Skul because it's also like a 2D combat platformer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so the biggest tip that I gave to some people that really helped them was to slow down. They're so used to the pace of Dead Cells that they want to rush and often put themselves in more danger by doing so. You can quite freely stop and take your time, take a breather. If the enemies are moving around and there's too many close together, you can wait until some kind of, lure them away, kind of move in, hit one and run away kind of thing. You can play kind of pokey and run in, do a skill, run away. And do stuff like that. Now that in the full release of the game, you don't have to invest points to unlock the invincible dodge, which you used to have to do. You just have it as a default right now. Have fun with that. Learn the dodge. I would say, as a learning experience, something that I do all the time in a lot of games that I play, not even just Skul, but games in general, that are like this, is learning what the enemies do and what options you have to avoid them. So, for example, if you're fighting in the forest and you've got those really big hammer guys that charge at you and slam the mace, I will go into a run and not even consider them winning. I'm not even trying to win. I want to find that enemy. I'll kill all the other enemies around him so I can fight him one-on-one. And I'll stand there and I'll practice for about 5-10 minutes and I'll look for what he does. Oh, this is how he looks when he's about to charge. What can I do? I can double jump up and go over his head before he even starts. I can dash past him to the other side. I can run away, but I've discovered that running away might be difficult if he catches up to me with the charge, because he might hit me in the back. Same with the hammer. He raises it up above his head. Okay, I'm going to run past him or dash past him. I'm just going to move away. And I'll do that with every enemy that I come across that gives me trouble. So the maids in Act 2 are a nightmare for a lot of players. And I learned that she will not summon any more of the little maids if you only kill 2 of them and leave 1 alive. She outright won't do it. All 3 of the little ones. She summons 2 blondes and a redhead. If you leave 1 alive, she won't do it again. So there's little tricks and gimmicks that you can figure out to try and deal with enemies that give you trouble. In addition to that, I would say just casually practice the dodging. Skul is one of those games that demand you, especially by the end when you're fighting in Act 4 or against the hero especially, they want you to dodge near constantly to try and avoid damage. Like if you try and fight the hero and not dodge, it's just going to be an absolute nightmare by the time you get there. If you get used to the dodge nice and early, because the enemies in the beginning of the game are relatively slow and they don't hit you too quickly, so they're giving you time to learn. And it's the same thing with the adventurers. If you have a hard time against those adventurer fights like the ninja or the archer girl, you can quite literally just go into a run, get up to that fight, and then it's like, oh, who is this? The paladin guy, the big guy with the mace. I'm going to practice running underneath him and avoiding that big jumping slam that he does. Or, going over his head when he puts up the shield. And then when he starts powering up his big ultimate attack, I'm going to run all the way across the other side of the screen. He's going to start swinging, and I'm going to go over his head. And then, win or lose, you can go back and practice on them. You don't have to, win every run. You can go into a run fully expecting to just practice, and then start again, and then practice, and do that on loop.
Totally.
I would say that that's, one of the most important things. Obviously, knowledge, learning what the items do in Skulls, those kind of things come with time. But mechanically, getting used to the dodge and the movement stuff is probably going to help the most, and learning enemies. If you don't know what they're going to do, how can you avoid it?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's good. I think yeah, I would definitely agree. Just like taking your time with the enemies that are giving you trouble. Like, don't focus on trying to. Don't worry about trying to beat them. Just worry about like learning them, right?
Yeah.
Which is what I need to do in Act 4. But like, I get to Act 4, once. If I'm playing over and over again, it's like once an hour. And if I die right away, it takes so long.
That's why the hero fight is such a trial and error thing for players, because of all of his phases. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, last week on stream, he did a new move that I've never seen him do before.
Oh my gosh.
And it hit me, and I'm like, I fought this guy so many times. I've never seen... How many do you have?
Yeah.
How many moves do you have? Like, he has all these phases and all these moves.
Yeah.
And it takes like an hour to get there. And then by the time you get there and you fight him and he does something and he kills you, it's like, I just want to see what he does, man. I just need to know what he's going to do.
Can I just see it? Well, yeah. Like, I don't know if you ever played Hollow Knight. But in Hollow Knight, there's all these bosses scattered throughout the world. And eventually they released an expansion or a DLC that let you practice against every single boss. You would go to their statue, and so long as you had seen the boss in the game at some point, you could fight the boss just over and over and over again, and you don't have to like run from a spawn point or And that made such a big difference because you could learn the fight by practicing it over and over and over again. Totally.
Exactly, and like thankfully in Hollow Knight, the that classic Souls-like death run where you fight the boss and die, and you have to spend like 40 minutes getting back to it just to try again. Thankfully in Hollow Knight it wasn't that bad, but it's the is it Godhome that you're talking about? I think that was its name.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep. That's the one.
I never did Godhome. I finished the game.
Okay.
And I promised myself, because at the time I came to Hollow Knight kind of late. It was only like a little around a year ago that I finished Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
And I know that Silksong is in the works. So I said to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Hollow Knight down for now, and I'm going to come back to the game and play through Godhome and do all that stuff to get like a refresher on things and get back in the groove before Silksong releases. And so it would be amazing to go in and do those boss fights, because I'm going to go back to it at some point.
Yeah.
Not having played the game for a year and get absolutely destroyed by these fights.
Yeah. There's some, man, those fights in Hollow Knight are crazy. They're so hard.
It's fantastic.
Some of them are, yeah. They're designed so well.
So happy. Oh, they're designed so incredibly. That's why I was so happy that like the Lyanna fight in Act 2 is basically just the Mantis Lords.
It totally is, yeah.
And it's like, I imagine if you had a chance to ask the devs, okay, come on, let's be real now. This is just the Mantis Lords, right? They'd give you a little smile and go, hey, we know what we like.
That's right. We listen to our fans. We know what people like. Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing that I would mention too about the thing that kind of like threw me for a loop, or I didn't realize, is like look at the situation of what's happening on the screen right now. There's a bunch of enemies. They can't touch me. Right? I can stand here all day and they couldn't do a thing. So if you can jump down and do a hit and then escape to a platform. When I stopped and realized that like these enemies don't have a whole lot of attacks, right? They attack what's in front of them. I mean, the guys who summon the roots that, are the spike things or whatever, those guys are monstrous. But you learn to recognize them in the red on the floor. Red bad. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of tells. The game is generous enough that if you're keeping your eyes open, they want you to pay attention. So there's enough tells, like the red on the ground, the yellow glow that they've recently put in. Before the yellow glow didn't exist, we just knew that the enemies had hyper armor, but we didn't it wasn't super obvious. But now they flat out tell you, it's like, okay, this guy is going to do an attack and he does not care what you think about it. He's going to do it.
Yeah. There are and learning when enemies can be staggered and when they can't, or like what can stop a stagger or stop an enemy from being staggered. Like those are those things are tough.
The best example for that, like, it's weird because the really big enemies, the big charges, like never stagger, right? They never stagger. But then in Act 3, those big ogre enemies, sometimes they'll stagger, but then all of a sudden they just decide, you know what, I'm not being staggered anymore. I'm gonna start swinging. And so they like take turns with you. It's like, okay, it's your turn to hit me. I'm done now. I'm gonna take my turn back. It's like, but okay,
fine.
and like it's really true. Like there are some enemies in the game. There are some areas where you can just freely avoid them and deal with them any other way. I think it's why Alchemist is a bit of a fan favorite, because he can just sit on a platform and fire his little homing orbs at enemies.
if you found Alchemist early, you kind of have a good thing going.
You have an amazing thing going. That's what happens. It's too good to be true.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I had a couple more questions. Oh, we talked a little bit about your favorite items, right? Like we talked about, Infinite Bone and the Black Steel dagger. Any other? Are you Sylphid Wings? Is there anything else that you would say you just particularly enjoy, like the way the item works, or a favorite item?
As far as like favorite items, it's a shame it got a nerf, but I used to be a huge fan of Explosive Arrow back in like early access. It never used to have a cooldown on it associated. So if you had Mummy and you could spam the attack button incredibly quickly, every single bullet would explode and do big damage.
Oh man.
And as a result, when they released the full game, they put a 0.5-second internal cooldown on it, so that only every 10th bullet will explode, just to nerf it. And I feel as though it's a personal attack.
Yeah, right?
On me, because I used to do it all the time, and people used to love it. They'd be all like, take a mummy, do a mummy run, and now I can't.
Oh, that's funny. I love talking to people when they play the game really early on in development, and they reminisce about like the good old days when like an item worked differently. I love it. It's great. Because I do the same thing. I talk about like, remember in Hades when you could do this thing, or when Artemis would give you all the cast boons. Those were the days.
Really?
Yeah. Well, she didn't give you all the cast boons, but like the Mirage shot cast boon that you can get, that used to just be an Artemis secondary boon. You would basically, the way to play any cast build was to take the cast god, or whatever god you're going to take that was going to give you the cast, and then Artemis, and you were going to have a good run. It was going to be a great cast run.
That's ridiculous.
It was so good. It was so great. So like Hunting Blades was completely insane. Oh, good night, Barrister.
I've had Hunting Blades like twice, and I understand that it was better. Yeah. And yes, thank you, Barrister. Thank you very much for hanging out and for the kind words. I hope I've been a good guest.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's fun to talk about those good old days, in development.
It's incredible.
Before things were nerfed.
I used to reminisce. Someone was asking me, how come Predator doesn't work a certain way? So the Predator skull in the game used to be incredibly broken, because he has this mechanic, as you know, where like his abilities have about 5 or 6 charges to them, and the way that he works is you just mash the button and continue going through the attack. Back in the old days, I feel like an old man now. Predator still had that effect, but every single time you pressed his buttons to spam the abilities, it could potentially trigger an on-ability effect. So Mage's Necklace would spawn fireballs every single press of the button, and Infinite Bone had a chance to reset the entire cooldown of the entire ability each time you press the button.
Yeah.
So you had about 10 chances to reset all of his moves and summon 1,000 fireballs on the screen.
Oh my gosh,
to just
awesome.
Eat through everything. But of course they nerfed it, which I feel is also a personal attack.
Of course. Well, they knew how much you enjoyed it. They saw.
Well, this is what happens when you make videos on stuff. The real tech chat. If you find something broken and fun, don't tell anyone about it. Don't make a video. Don't share it. Don't do anything. Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Yeah, exactly. Don't publish that video until after the game is out.
Yeah. Wait until they fix the bug, and then once the bug is fixed, like, maybe 2 or 3 months too late, then you can release it and go, oh yeah, I knew about this all the time. I just didn't want to ruin it early.
That's right.
I've secretly shared it with all of my crew in the Discord. Shh. Don't share. Shh. We keep this secret.
Yeah. We this is our little secret. Exactly.
Exactly.
What about quintessences? Are there any that stand out for you that you just enjoy, or?
A personal, it's not the best quintessence in the game, but just a little personal favorite of mine is the Archdemon one, where it summons all of the orbs on the screen that home in on
Yes.
nearby enemies.
Yeah.
That's one that I've always loved. I don't like that its passive effect is just 60 extra HP. It seems like an odd effect to have on such an aggressive quintessence.
Right.
But I do absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I do really like the newest one, the Swanee. I don't even know how you're meant to pronounce the name correctly, but I really like it so much so that I've got a new emote for it. But
I don't know what does it do? I don't know if I've seen it.
It's a new legendary. It has it summons this. It's actually a character created one. At the end of the game in the credits, there are 3 individuals who are given a special credit for creating stuff. As like, I don't know if it was a competition or just that the devs reached out to them, but this player created this quintessence for the full release of the game. It summons an NPC that does an incredibly big magical explosion on the screen that does the most damage that any quintessence basically can do. It hits so hard, it guarantees wipes the screen basically. But the passive effect on it is that it increases cooldown speed by 80%.
Wow.
It's literally double Medusa, and it's like,
wow.
If you get that with like mana engine or infinite bone and stuff, you're just spamming buttons the entire run and doing big damage. It's completely broken.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I feel like anything that reduces cooldown time is so strong. It's so good.
It's very strong. There's a selection of items that I like to call like the universal ones, where it doesn't matter who you're playing, they're going to be useful. Like Mana Engine fits that bill. You had Thieves Blacksteel Dagger that fits it. Sylphid Wings, Warriors Pauldrons. There's all of these games that are really good, but I find that cooldown reduction can be just so important for some of these abilities and skulls that have longer ones, like Windows Internet Explorer pointing out Seal. Thank you very much for pointing out the personal attack by increasing the cooldown on it when they released the 1.0. He has a long cooldown on that, so if you can bring that down, like when you won your run on the Lich, you want to use that ability a lot, right? That's a fun ability. It does a lot of damage. If you can reduce the cooldown of that, that's fantastic. Unless you're doing like a madness run. Obviously, if you're doing a run where you're focusing entirely on your regular attacks, which madness kind of does, you want to swing your regular attacks as much as possible. But like 9 out of 10 times, cooldowns are so important.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, your abilities are, for most characters, that's where you do most of your damage. Unless you get to that point where your attack speed is crazy.
For sure. I think Mummy is the only other outlier there, where Mummy's whole role is grab gun, shoot.
I know. I love what they did with Mummy. Oh man, I was so happy when I saw the gun falling down from the sky. I was just like, it clicked. Like, this is Metal Slug. This is awesome.
It's Metal Slug, and I love it. He has an ability. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a knife where he does like a knife attack.
The knife attack.
I
haven't seen it. No,
literally. No, if you ever get the knife attack on Mummy, get him to like either unique or legendary, and you get the knife attack, right? It's the claw. So if basic Mummy has the claw attack that he does, it turns into the knife attack. And when you do it, I'm not even kidding. It is actually like frame by frame the same stabbing knife attack from Metal Slug.
That's awesome.
He does like the stab and then the uppercut slash thing. They just give it to him. It's like, that's great. You guys don't even care anymore. You know full well you're just putting this homage in the game.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about this game is its sense of humor and its homages to other games. I think it does it very well. You know, it's fan service, right?
It's incredible fan service. It's like the developers know full well that there's all these games out there. Like when they did the collab with the guys from Dead Cells, Motion Twin, is it? Yeah. And they put the prisoner in the game. Yeah. It's like, you can clearly see they're like, we're heavily inspired by Dead Cells. We love your game. Can we please do like a crossover? We want to share the love. And it's like, I like that they're doing all this stuff like on the nose, and at the same time they're fully aware and they're conscious that we're just big fans of these games too. And we just want to have fun with it as much as you guys do.
Exactly. Take some parts that we like from it and incorporate it in this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's such a great. I don't know. I really this game. The more I play it, the more I like it. It just feels great. It feels great.
It's a good feeling. It does have a bit of a learning curve, like people in the chat were saying about difficulty stuff.
Yeah.
With more practice and patience, it's like a lot of these games. Like when I first started Hades, I was doo at Hades. I could not play Hades at all.
I think everyone was.
Same with,
but
exactly. It's like it's fast paced. It's incredibly punishing if you make mistakes. The same with Dead Cells and all these other games. With time and patience, you will master the mechanics. You'll be dodging and moving and making the right decisions, and you'll walk into a room with 1,000 enemies, and it's like, child's play. I do this with ease.
That's right. That's right.
Suddenly, the enemies are afraid of you. You walk in, and you are the boss.
Exactly. Oh, Boom Cannon just says a new roguelite is coming from the same publisher Neo is out next week. Did they?
Are you talking about Dandy Ace? I think.
I'm not sure. Boom Cannon was mentioning it. I've seen advertisements for Dandy Ace. I haven't played it.
I feel like a really big stupid because I played the early, like there was a testing phase for Dandy Ace and I played it on stream. Dandy Ace is really fun and I think might actually have its own little niche because it has Twitch integration put into it. There's a Twitch mode for streamers.
Nice.
Where the chat can interact by either putting in help or hindrance for the streamer. So you can spawn in items for this, like the chat picks the items for you. So it's like, be kind chat, give me something good. And then of course my chat, mine being what they are, decide to give me the worst items possible.
Oh man.
Suffer, Beelz, please suffer. or cupcakes. The gimmick is that the chat can like secretly give you healing items, but you don't know if it's a healing item or a poisonous cupcake.
That's awesome. That's such a good mechanic.
It's a cool idea, and it's gonna have some pretty good integrations with Twitch and with the community. I'm looking into it. I'm not sure. Next week, you say? I might get into that and take a look at it and see what it's like.
It says, it says the planned release is March 25th, but I guess I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Maybe that's on a different platform. Maybe that's just on Steam. Yeah.
It may be. Oh, well, I'll take a look into it at some point. But yes, it is a cool game.
That seemed cool. We played Noeda. I don't know if you've ever played that game, but it's got Twitch integration in kind of the same way. They can do crazy stuff in that game though. Like they can remove the world, like huge chunks of the world they could just make disappear. And in this game, like when different things interact, like you could have giant pools of gasoline, and so like you take away the thing that was holding it, and it falls on the fire underneath you, and it just makes this giant fireball, and you're like trying to avoid it. It gets pretty nuts pretty fast, which. Yeah, I know that it's the type of game that like it's a slow and steady wins the race type of game, but when you have that chat integration thing, you're kind of just trying to survive by the skin of your teeth at every second. So it feels a little different.
I've had some people recommend Noeda to me, and they're saying, "Oh, you should try this and check it out." I might have to do so now. I have JP's endorsement that it's a fun game, so I'll go and check it out.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's hard though. I mean, like all of these, it's tough.
I think
it's kind of hard to understand at first. Yeah, it's one that's like hard to understand too. Like there's a lot of like mechanics that they do not explain to you. They just kind of throw you in and you figure it out. Which can be fun. Yeah.
That was exactly what happened in Skul. They're working on it now. They want to kind of incorporate a better, I don't know if it's like tutorial, but they want to add more stuff into the game eventually, like an encyclopedia, like an index, so you can research and like see what items do and get a better understanding, like a stats screen and stuff like that, because a lot of people straight up don't know what some things do. So in my original guides I was putting out, a big focus of the guides was just explaining basic stuff like these totem thingies here are buffs for the enemies. Destroy them and then you get buffs.
Yeah.
The largest one for the longest time was the draft stone. No one knew what the draft stone did.
Yeah, what's a soldier?
Does the draft stone do? What's a soldier? Nothing is called a soldier in the game. I don't
Exactly.
understand.
Exactly. Uh, yeah, there's just little things that quality of life stuff that would make it nice for a new person.
Exactly. But I imagine with Noeda, the whole gimmick is, yes, we're going to throw you in, nothing. Please die and
Yeah.
suffer many times.
Indeed, it feels different from Skull. It feels like it's trying to be like obtuse. Like that's part of its charm is how obtuse things are.
Yeah.
Whereas Skull very much like you see the enemies, you fight the enemies, like you're going from room to room. That it's kind of simple in that way, but
Yeah. It's deliberately like, oh, look, there's a special thing over here. Maybe you should go touch it, and then you go and do it, and it's like, oh, you fell for it. You
fool. Trapped. Exactly. No, there's lots of traps in that game.
Oh, just to clarify for Internet Explorer, yes, shield, spear, sword, and bomber. Bomber counts as one of the 4. There's only 4 in the game, but bomber counts for Draftstone.
Bomber. Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
It can be pretty good for him.
Yeah. Well, I really that's kind of the next thing I want to try. I want to get Mummy to legendary, and I want to get Bomber to legendary because those two seem like I don't know. They seem like they'd be fun.
Exactly.
Bomber is just one that I don't understand how it would even work. Like I've never been able to use an ability with the Bomber, because I've never really leveled it up at all. So.
Well, it kind of comes down to 2 different play styles. You can play a bomber as like a support, or you can play him as the main thing. So depending on what your second ability is, because normally you'll always get the kaboom attack. Normally, right. I'm pretty sure you should always get it, which is the one that instantly explodes you.
Okay.
So what you can do is if you've got like another skull that you're using, like champion or even rider, one like that, you can swap into bomber and then immediately hit kaboom and just blow up and go right back to the first skull.
Yeah.
Or you go into him and you use his other ability, like he throws little mini bombs all over the screen. And so I will just be running around throwing these little tiny bombs all over the place. And then when he does blow up, all the other ones blow up as well. So there's a lot you can do with that. You can do like little fun things.
Yeah.
And definitely get Mummy to legendary at some point. I find people ask me like, fun factor. I think Mummy is one of the most fun skulls to play just because it's such a wild and different play style.
Totally. It feels like it's from a completely different game, which I guess it is. Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome. I'm just going to hit Couch Potato there, asking about the inscriptions. They're kind of like item sets. The inscriptions are all set on each item, so they don't randomize. The same item will always have the same inscriptions. And the idea is you can collect all these other different items, that have the same inscription effect to stack them up. It is like a set bonus in a way, so that the more of them you get, the stronger the effect becomes. An example is, we talked about it earlier, Fairy Tale. So if you collect all of the spirits, there's, the fire, the wind, the water, the earth, and the shade, the dark one. And then there's also the blessing item. So if you collect all the spirits, something special happens, and it's really fun. Or you can collect all the madness items to give yourself attack speed. It's really cool. Something some people don't know, though, is that a lot of the inscriptions have more potential items than you need. So there are 6 fairy tale items in the game, but you only need to get 5 to maximize the effect. So there's a bit of leniency there. You don't have to get, like, perfect luck every single time. But that's basically what inscriptions are.
Nice. Yeah. It's kind of a confusing, and the fact that like I find it just annoying that I can't scroll through that side list. I have to like find the item that has the script or whatever. Like for some reason that just bothers me. Like why can't I just go to the left and scroll down like and see just what madness does? And I don't know.
Exactly.
Little things just kind of bug me about that, but.
That's something that I'm hoping they're working on. They've done a lot of talking about quality of life stuff and just little integrations with the UI and everything. I'm really hoping that as they move forward, they just take like, because they've been working so hard on finishing the game and the story and all that kind of stuff. Like beforehand, there was no story, there was no anything. There was 3 acts and that was it. Go home, and then they bring out the story and the new fights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I
want them to stop and take a breath, sit back, and just do. Don't worry about the big stuff for now. Little things. Put descriptions in there for us. Put a little index. I want to be able to read what an item does before I buy it.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, like, there's so
Exactly.
much replayability with what they've put in. Like, they can just kind of leave the big, big C content as it is, and just kind
Yeah,
of like polish some stuff up and make it easier for
exactly.
us to learn about
And
it.
what Uncle Jawless says is a really good idea too, a stat summary. So like, how much
Yeah,
crit do I have? How much movement speed do I have? Do I
yeah,
have a lot of defense? Something like that'd be great. Instead of
yeah.
having to like go over every item and add it all up in your brain, it's like, okay, this gives me 50% magic. This gives me why does evil eye give me 65? That's an odd number.
Yeah.
And
And then like
having to add it all up.
all the buffs at the bottom of the screen, like I get it, but it's really hard to understand what all that is even. Like I don't
Exactly. So
there's too much there. But
there's so much stuff there. Like just knowing if an item is working. Like for the
yeah.
longest time, I'm using an item and I'm like, is it on right now? Am I using this correctly? Am I even benefiting right now?
Exactly. Yeah. Is it on cooldown or is it actually in effect? I have no idea.
Yes, yes. I struggled with that for weeks.
It's rough. It's rough. But yeah. Oh, that was fun. This is awesome. This is really cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in and
Oh.
helping me through that. I wish I'd gotten at least to the final boss. Doggone.
It's okay. As I say, we did it for the funs. We did it for
That's
it was
right.
like a
That's
meme.
right.
It was like you had to experience Ryder going at 3,000 miles an hour,
With chains.
eating enemies alive. And so now you know what it does, and you
Yeah.
can decide to probably maybe never take it again.
Yeah, right.
Depending on
Or not use the motorcycle on the Joan fight maybe.
exact.
Or use it
I've done
less.
the bike on the hero fight, and one attempt it worked out really well. The other attempt, I activated the bike, he leapt up in the air and squashed me, and I felt like the biggest idiot because I couldn't avoid it properly. I got myself killed immediately.
Oh, yeah. The fights are really punishing. I mean, they're really hard. No one should
Yes,
feel bad
yes.
about struggling through this game because it's a tough one.
No,
Like
it's designed that way.
I can't. I have no idea if it's tougher or as tough as Hades or what. Because I've played too much Hades to have any sort of perspective. But like,
Mm,
it feels harder than Hades. And I guess like if you think about the heat system in Hades, right? Like that's where you can add in a lot of that difficulty. And Skull doesn't have that, so I think it's just harder. I think it is just harder.
it
Maybe,
might be. I mean,
maybe.
when I went to Hades after playing Skull for so long, I had a similar feeling, but in reverse,
Yeah,
where I'm like,
yeah.
okay, this is tough. Why do they do this? Why do these enemies do this? Like the chariots, the little
Yeah,
chariot enemies. It's
yeah,
like these things
yeah. Those
suck.
are
Why
rough.
can't I
Those
get
guys are
away
rough.
from these things?
You gotta lead them into
And
walls. You gotta lead them into walls. They blow up.
I discovered that eventually. Beforehand, I was just running away and like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Oh.
get it. I can't fight these things unless I have a bow. I need a bow. Oh, I've got a sword. I'm screwed.
Oh,
I can't
shoot.
do this.
This is gonna be rough. So that's rough. Trying to do a bow's job with a sword.
Oh,
No, no
I
good.
couldn't do it. But
No
eventually
good.
I figured it out though. So I think you're right. Like the heat system is where the added difficulty comes in, and I'd love to have something like that in Skull, just for the
Yeah.
sake of it, just
Yeah.
to add extra dimension and be like, oh, let's just make this even tougher for no real reason.
Right. Right.
Like my chat regularly make me do challenge runs where
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't
Yeah.
take I can't take items, or I have to do certain things. Only use one skull. Don't take these items. Don't do this. Don't do that.
I watched you do the no jump run. That was insane. That was
Oh,
so
darn.
insane. I don't know how long that took for you to record it, but the video was awesome, and you hit all the fun parts. I was like, my jaw was just on the ground the whole time. I was like, how is he doing this? How is he moving up
I
through the map?
the thing I love about that so much is everyone was asking me to do that for weeks leading up to it. And then I had a chance to do it, and I'm like, you know what? Let's do a no jump run. I'm gonna do this without jumping, and I can only use these little core mechanics to try and help wiggle my way through. And then I beat the first boss. I beat Yggdrasil without
Yeah.
jumping.
Yep.
And then what does my chat do? Please end this run. We hate this. It's like,
Oh man.
At that point, I became spiteful. And I'm like, no, we're going
Betrayal.
further.
It's betrayal right there.
Yeah,
Man.
and then I got a bit stuck, so I decided to stop.
Oh man. I mean, like multiple times I was like, oh, okay, he's probably gonna wrap up here. There's no way to get past this part, and then you got
Yeah,
past it. It's like that's insane. It's crazy.
exactly.
Very cool.
It's very punishing.
Yeah. Well, let everyone know what times do you stream, Beelz? Like when can they catch you live on Twitch?
Let's see. Time zones. So
Yeah, that's tough.
if
You can use your own time, and they can let them figure that out. They're good at that stuff.
Exactly. Well, the first thing that I would say is if you head over to my Twitch channel normally when I'm not streaming, you can find that the schedule section, wherever that's meant to be hidden, there's a schedule section somewhere near the like about and info and stuff. The schedule has it there when I stream, and that automatically compensates for your time zone. So you'll see it in your time zone.
Right.
But just verbally, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, AEST. But if you want a bit of an easier way of figuring it out, about 1 hour and 20 minutes from now, I start my stream, and this is my Sunday. So for probably most people in the US, it's Saturday for you right now. So 3 days on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 5 p.m. AEST.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the times. So for me, the time that I can catch your stream is if I wake up by like 6 a.m. and if I run to my computer, I can catch like the last like 20 to 30 minutes of your stream.
Oh, that's so brutal. I get the same thing from everyone else. For the longest time, I had a couple of very sweet and dedicated American and Canadian fans who were up until like 3 in the morning, and I'm like, guys, sleep.
I know.
Sleep.
Yeah, there are people like that too. And I don't understand because my sleep is like sacred. Like I don't give it up very easily.
I don't give it up too easily either, but I'm one of those people who can sometimes lose complete track of time and suffer for the craft, where it's like I'm at my PC, I'm editing, I have a thing in my head that I need to do. It's like I want to do this, and I want that to happen, and then I need this to happen, and it's all coming together, and then I look at the time and it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about. I mean, it's that flow state, right? Like time, it's like the clock just starts spinning like this when you're video editing. I've experienced the same thing. It's insane.
Yeah.
But
what Windows said, 12 Central? That sounds about right. So if it's like an hour and a half from now, that makes sense.
Sure. Cool.
Easy.
Well, sir, I really appreciate it. I think we'll wrap it up here.
Not a worry. Thank you for having me on.
Oh man, yeah, this was a pleasure, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. That'd be great.
I would be completely down. I will not steer you in the direction of Rider Skull again. I'll give you. I will encourage you to take something much easier to control.
Something easy, yeah.
I hate that I called it too. It's like if you find Rider and then it's there, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna lead JP
good.
down the dark path.
It was good. No, it was good. I hadn't experienced how powerful the motorcycle could be. I had seen it and I'd used it. It's like, oh man, this is cool. But like when you can like you say, wiggle back and forth, and when you have all those items that like just stack amazing things, like that's really fun. That's really cool.
It's really it's one of those trade-offs. It's great power, but it's hard to control.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a fire hose or something.
Yes.
All right. Well, so I usually end my stream with a little song. You are free to stay on the call if you'd like, or you can, do whatever you like. But I'm just gonna grab my guitar and play a tune, and then we'll raid someone and we'll call it